Hello there, only one Kenobi here, only one. I'd call this a figure hack, but it's more of an experiment, if anything. So, this is notorious for buckling and falling down. I got this a year ago, actually. I can't believe it's a year that I have had this, but this one is worst of all. But up there is the Rogue One one, that never buckles. So, I'm going to go through a couple of things with this. Number one, I'm going to talk about the sweet spot, which that is in, and this is in now. And if you're having trouble getting your ATST to stand, I'll show you the sweet spot where it will stand. But this one does buckle. But one thing I will just say to people who are, they're only the goodness of their heart, they're trying to help, and they always get in touch and they say, what you could do is put something. I just do not want to hear about it, man. People talking about kebab skewers and having things underneath here. No way. Bruh. I don't want that. Do you know why? Because in the Return of the Jedi, these things were standing without a support underneath them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not having that, I'm afraid. So forget about it. I don't want to hear about it. But one thing I will tell you is that well done, Hasbro. You made this one. That has never buckled ever. This one, I will admit, it is hard to get it to stand in the so-called sweet spot. But I don't know if I use the illustrations on the packaging or what to help me, but got to have the legs and the limbs in a certain stance to balance it perfectly. And as you can see, they're quite sort of parallel with the ground, the bottom ones there, aren't they? The bottom, yeah. And these are quite, yeah, I don't know, man. But anyway, that's standing, that ain't going nowhere. If you really got the shelf and rattled it, maybe it would buckle, but this one's a nightmare though. It's really, really difficult. Very, very, very sensitive, the limb joints. And that's a Hasbro issue. You know what I mean? They should have made it so that the joints were like that. That thing over there, that's really stiff, the limbs. I'm going to very carefully, oh God, excuse me, I'm going to mount the camera. Bear with me one moment, ladies and gentlemen, will you please? At the minute, as we speak, I'm heating up a glue gun because my plan is going to be that that's in the sweet spot, there's equilibrium there, should we say. I want to just reinforce the joints by putting just a little strip of glue gun glue on the back side of this vehicle, which is where you're not going to see it when it's on display. It's going to be facing forward, right? So, let me just very carefully pivot it. Oh God. Should be alright, be alright. I got it in the so-called sweet spot here. And I had to look at the one above for reference, actually, because I came in earlier and, oh God, I just touched it. See, it didn't fall then. I just knocked it by accident. It had buckled or whatever, so I've had it lying on its back for a few days, but I thought, well, I'm going to dress it and stand it up. I've actually got it to stand fairly quickly, but what I needed to do was look at that one for reference. And as you can see here, the angle of this is not parallel with the with ground level. It's going more like this. I've always had it so it's like that. These legs here, these are kind of going back like that. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly like that one, but you don't want to have these anything. You want to have them kind of going straight. I really can't say anything other than you'll find the sweet spot, but it's very difficult. You will find the sweet spot, so please do use this as a guide if you're having trouble finding the sweet spot. It's not buckling at all, I'm spinning it. As you will see, you can see there's quite a decent curvature there, but for whatever reason, the legs have not buckled yet. But what I want to do is, because it can buckle, if I push that down now there, the whole thing would just collapse on itself. What I was thinking of doing was, and I'm heating up a glue gun as we speak. There we are, ladies and gentlemen, is I just want to reinforce the limbs, not going inside them, but just putting a strip of glue on the back side. Let me just show you what my plan is, right? Where the hinge is, right? I want to just run some glue right across there. Let me go handheld here. What I was thinking of doing is just to give it a little bit of strength. Not gluing the legs inside the joint or anything like that, but just putting a strip just across where the two parts meet. Because obviously it's a hinge, isn't it? Doing that maybe not inside there, but just across, like say right here. I'll have to go underneath it. Can I go under the table and film? So just here I'm thinking about just putting a strip of glue just going right across the hinge just to seal it up, just to give it a little bit more support, because as I've said a few times, it's obviously now standing of its own free will. It needs some backup. I even thought about rubbing in some Pritt stick glue or something just to seize it up a little bit, but I think the glue gun glue will be a little bit stronger And maybe, well, you see, this is a top joint here, you see. So technically, if I'm going to follow the pattern of all the other bits where I'm putting glue, it would have to go underneath maybe. Or maybe I could put some inside. You'd have to put it across there, which I don't particularly want to do that. This seems to be the strongest of joints anyway. I don't know, man. It's interesting. I'm going to go for it. I need to take it off its standing position. And I need to have it. I do not want to take it out of its sweet spot, though. So if I put it more in favour of its head there like that, that should be fine. I might start to put some glue on this now. Just a little bit for support. Just going to run it across. And these bottom ones here I can do here as well. Where else would buckle? I don't want to put glue inside there because you'll have a hell of a time getting it out. I've put it in areas where it can just be picked off. You see, that's not dry yet, but it will. That's where I've put it on there. Don't want to put any inside the joint. I'd sooner put it on the top, but the problem is with the feet is the only place you can put it in a similar position is on the top side, which is going to be visible, but maybe for the sake of ease, I'll just put it on the inside. Maybe it won't be noticeable if it dries. That's drying already, look at that. See what I'm saying? Bit of support there, man. There's all sorts of joints going on here as well. I think I might just put some spots there as well. Bear with me. Right, handheld. I'm going to let that just dry now. I mean, obviously you can see it already is, but it'll be hot. I'll let it cool. Go real solid. Let those molecules really firm up. And then I will turn it back to standing position and see what else I can do. I'll put the glue back onto on heat. Put a bit more there. You see, just to seize up any potential movement, which will spoil the equilibrium. And I'm sure there must be another joint on the underside of this. I don't know. I don't want to touch it yet. But if I go around here with the camera, I can't see. You can though. Maybe there's some other areas I can put a sneaky amount of glue. I'm thinking on the inside of that joint there. Sorry about the backlight, but you get the idea. Maybe just a little bit in there. You see where the light's coming through? At the end of the day, that looks rubbish anyway because they haven't painted that joint. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I think I might get it standing soon. Bear with me. Very carefully. I've got it by the head. These might rock backwards and forwards, the legs, but I've got it by the head because that's the firmest piece you can get hold of, really, with this. You touch the legs, any pressure on those, the leverage will just skew with any balance you've got. So I'm just going to get this to stand now. Whatever I have done, I'm sure I have firmed up any looser joints now. I just don't want to have anything underneath it, man. It looks rubbish. You know, I think it was the temperature change recently. We've had some really hot weather. Let me just put this back. See, I'm going to handle this really carefully, but I just want to give it some extra support. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some glue. Let's see where I can add some. Now, we've got some of the back side of that joint, so that's okay. I want to maybe add a little bit in there, because that is a joint that could buckle. They seem stronger, the feet joints, but just in case, just a little bit on the inside there. How about that? Right, let's try it. Yeah, you won't, unless you go looking for it, you won't be able to tell that. I'll tell you what, I'd sooner have that little blob of glue, which will go translucent. It's transparent now, but when it dries, it'll go kind of a translucent colour. It will match its surroundings, maybe the brown. I'd sooner have that than a bloody kebab skewer underneath, you know what I mean? I have actually, as you know, got glue on the underside of that. See there? Right there. So that's not visible. When that dries, that might be visible, but that's where I've just put it there, just a little bit there. If there's a problem, or, you know, whatever, I can always remove it. So that hasn't dried yet. I'm just thinking I haven't put any on this joint here. This is the last thing I'm going to do now. I'm going to try to figure out. Aha, I found somewhere. Maybe if I get inside there, to that hinge here, that will be the last word on what I can do. And plus that'll be nicely hidden as well. Let's try. As you can see in there now, the blob of glue is obviously solidified. It's just sat on. See, that's just sat on there. That'll be easy to remove that as well. I'll obviously need to tidy up the glue trail there. There's a little bit of residue, but that's fine. And then over here, Where did I put it? Yeah, just on top of that one there. So I think I've hopefully strengthened the whole thing. Oh, see what I did then? I was trying to, that sort of seized up the joint of this. I pushed it forward and the whole thing leaned forward. But I tell you what, man, I think I've made this stronger. I still wouldn't recommend bouncing it around, man. But that should hopefully not buckle. So number 1, get it in the sweet spot. Number 2, back up your joints, man. I've used glue gun glue there. I think you could probably use another type. I wouldn't use super glue because you're gonna, you know, dissolve the plastic. You know what super glue does? It breaks up the bonds of the plastic to rebond, isn't it? I don't know the science, but something like that. And then you'll impair it. It will permanently damage it. You could maybe try some paper glue, as in Pritt Stick, because that's obviously water. You can wash it out and very clean. The reason I chose this is because it's got to be strong. Also, even in that deeper joint there, I'll be able to pick that out, I'm sure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't really do any more in this. I'd do an experiment for you and start doing some stunts and see if it could really is stronger. But what the best thing is if I report back to you in a month or so, maybe longer, and I will let you know how this is doing. But I'm really hoping that this will be something maybe in a whole year's time I can do another video and say, ladies and gentlemen, mission accomplished, it never buckled again. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I have been only one Kenobi. Only one. Out.